Welcome to another episode of Altitude Advantage. I'm your host and team reporter, Elisa Hernandez. Across the screen from me and across the pond is our lead writer on DenverBroncos.com, Aric DiLalla, who is in London, who's been with the team all week. Very excited to talk to you and catch up and see how the team has been doing because it's been a very exciting couple of weeks. The team is coming off a Monday Night Football win, a short week, knocking off the defending Super Bowl champions, and then whisked away to London to prepare for the Jets. How much fun has it just been over the past few days watching how this team has really bounced back from what we were talking about just a few weeks ago, back-to-back losses, and now whole new page, whole new story. October is here, and Sean Payton's reputation precedes itself.
Yeah, that's right. Sean Payton's been really good in October. It's been a little bit of a whirlwind, at least. I wouldn't be lying to you if I said that there's been a couple days this week that I've woken up and had no idea where I am. Am I in Philadelphia? Am I in Denver? Am I in outside of London? The answer is outside of London, and it's been a good few days here as we're recording this. It's a Thursday, and it's almost dinner time where we are. It's where you are. The day is just getting going, but. Listen, these trips are always fun. Last year, the Broncos went 2-0 on a trip like this. They went to Tampa Bay, then to the Greenbrier in West Virginia, and then to New York, kind of turned their whole season around. And I think that this has the chance to be a similar type trip. The Broncos, like you mentioned, got that Monday Night Football win. It was electric at Empower Field at Mile High. People were fired up, but then it was immediately like, okay, what are you going to do against the defending champs? And man, because I've been over here, I haven't had the chance to do the podcast with you. I haven't been able to get all this off my chest, but it was a great win, a big win. And now, if the Broncos can take care of business here in London, they have the chance to come back with another win, another road trip, go 2-0, and keep this, push this to a three-game win streak, and really, I think, change the kind of dynamic of the season. So it's always fun then to come over here and see how excited everybody is. Gotten to interact with a few fans, some Jaguars fans actually, some Giants fans, people who love football in general, just excited to see the Broncos over here. They've been working at Tottenham Hotspur training ground. It's a beautiful facility, tons of fields. It's been really awesome. And so I know the guys are excited. I talked to Mike McGlinchey. He said these are the sorts of games where you're just like, man, it's pretty cool to do what we do. So yeah, exciting times over here in London. But the main thing, they're trying to keep the schedule the same because they want to come home with a win. It makes it a lot better.
Yeah, it's a long flight home, so you definitely want it to be a happy one. You talked about training at the Tottenham Hotspur training ground and how much these guys are loving it. I think the biggest thing when you reference that two-game win streak when they spend time at the Greenbrier was the camaraderie that gets built. There's something special when you're able to kind of separate yourself from, everyday life and be able to really bond with your team. I think that really helps become a turning point that we saw last season that could potentially be replicated now.
Yeah, I think that every season has these little moments, right, where you figure out what you're all about, what this team is about. And I think the Broncos are starting to find an identity, both, I think from like a technical standpoint of, oh, we're going to run the ball on offense and on defense, we're going to get after you with these pass rushers. But also I just think of, hey, we're tough, we're resilient, all those sorts of things. And I really can't say enough about what I think that win in Philadelphia can do for this team. I know it's a week league and you've got to refocus and you've got to move past it. But I also think that like seeing how excited everybody was after the game, seeing the guys talk about this win, you could tell it was a big deal. I was talking to Mike McGlinchey earlier today and he said, how could it not give you more confidence? And so this week is just the perfect blend where you're keeping your same schedule and it's a football first trip. Like I said, that the fields are terrific. It's a great facility. So you have everything you need from that standpoint, but there's no distractions. And Mike McGlinchey said it's a little bit like you're back in college and you're on a road trip or you're just, it's training camp or whatever it might be. Like all there is football. And Sean Payton said in his press conference last Sunday, like no sightseeing. And the players did get a day off to kind of do a little bit of what they want to do, like um, a normal Tuesday. But in general, the focus all on football, all on getting ready for the New York Jets and making sure that they get a win.
Speaking of that win over the Eagles, when I had talked to Jonathan Cooper prior to that, he mentioned that this win would be a statement win. It would let the league know that this team is one to be reckoned with. You mentioned how Mike McGlinchey talked about how this can be a boost for this team. Now that they've had a week to kind of let that win digest, I feel like something really clicked for this team. And Sean Payton, his victory speech saying, well, what are you afraid of? This team doesn't seem to be afraid of anything now that they know they can end that storyline of, oh, you can't beat playoff teams or, oh, you're not beating teams that are, above 500. This team went out and went on the road and got a huge win. So how can that momentum carry over as you're facing the Jets, who have yet to find a win this season, but the Broncos are not taking them lightly?
Yeah, I'm sorry. There's no earthquake over here. Just
You're
taking
just
a
so
a little bit.
that was your mind thinking. You were so intense on what you're gonna say. The screen started shaking.
It's a road game for me too. I don't have my normal podcast set up, trying to figure out everything. I'm in a hotel conference room
I know
trying to
Broncos country
record
appreciates your continued commitment to this. That's your
anything
advantage.
for the fans, anything for, we got lights flickering in the background. I mean,
It's
there's
just
a
the
lot
intensity of what you're gonna say. It's shaking the room. That's what it
That's
is.
that's possible. No, I think I asked Mike, hey, like, does this give you guys more confidence? And he said, how could it not, right? Like, how could you not feel differently about this team? And I think I don't know that the guys like are carrying themselves any different, but certainly there is this like this confidence that, and maybe it's always been there, but like I maybe look at this team a little differently. And I think nationally, people look at this team, you look at power rankings or you look at how people are talking about the Denver Broncos, it's now as this is a Super Bowl contender. And I don't know if one game just affirmed what people already thought or showed, hey, this team has a different level. But like they're every year in the playoffs, even when you go into it, I feel like there's a few teams where, okay, these teams are a little bit above even the other playoff teams. And to me, when the Broncos went in the playoffs last year, it was like, okay, they've made the playoffs, but Buffalo, Baltimore, Kansas City, like maybe those teams are kind of in that next tier. And you look at teams differently when they're not in that tier. And this win over the Eagles, I don't want to say that they're the Super Bowl favorite or anything, because I think there's a lot of teams that have proven again and again that they can do it and, have quarterbacks that have played in championship games. But all that said, I think that there certainly is this, like, at least to me, of, okay, now they showed that, like, if you can go beat Philadelphia on the road on a short week, a team that had won 20 of their last 21 games and, whatever it was over the last 18 games, Hurts
Very
had,
good at home. They play very well at home
yeah,
too.
they had a 12-game home winning streak. Like, them at home, there isn't a game really to me that you're like, we can't win this game. And so I think nationally the Broncos entered this different space. To me, watching them, I watch them now is like, maybe this is a team that can go, compete for a world championship. And so I think the guys feel that. And it's very much a week to week league, and you gotta, knock on wood, stay healthy. The Broncos, we'll talk about that a little later, but they might get Malcolm Roach back. He was designated for return. That would certainly help. But there's all these. It's a long season, and there's still so much that's going to happen before the playoffs. But we've talked for weeks, Elisa, like this is a team that we know is going to keep getting better because of who Sean Payton is as a coach. And I think if that's the case, where, hey, you just beat the Eagles on the road and you're still going to get better and maybe get things rolling a little bit, that's really exciting. And so there is this. I don't know if it's optim. I think it's like this quiet confidence almost. Like the guys aren't bragging or being like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna go undefeated." Like that's not what they're saying. But I think there's this understanding both externally and now internally that, hey, we can do this. And
Mhm.
now the key is like, don't go mess it up this week against the Jets, right? Like Sean Payton has said, you can't yo-yo in this league. And certainly in the NFL, we know if you aren't focused or dialed into the game plan or you're not ready to go, anybody in this league can beat you. And we heard a lot this week.
Mhm.
Guys were almost like bristling at the question of, is this a trap game? And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
it's not, you're not playing a Division 1 AA school. These are NFL teams, and the Jets might be 0-5, but they have three one possession losses and could easily be 3-2 or 2-3. And so this is and I think the team has the right mentality and the right focus. And Sean Payton said that, where, hey, I think we're built the right way for this. but until you do it, you don't know. So that's one of the big things I think we'll be able to tell early on Sunday is like, have the Broncos been dialed in? Are they ready to go? And these international games are always a little weird. They're kind of like Thursday night football games where they bring teams together a little bit, like the talent discrepancy or the way you're playing. I don't know if it shows up as much just because of the weirdness of the week, but like I think we'll know early. Hey, are the Broncos locked in and ready to go, or is this going to be a slugfest that they're going to have to battle their way through to get a win?
Setting the tone early, I feel like is really important for this team. In the game against the Eagles, they prevented the Eagles from scoring on their first drive, which I know was something that this defense has really worked on over the course of the season. You speak about the boost of confidence. You speak about this team being brought into a national conversation of what they're capable of. A player in specific has also been brought into the spotlight, and that's Nick Bonitto. He was named AFC Defensive Player of the Week for the first time in his career. He leads the NFL with 7 sacks. He had 2.5 sacks against the Eagles. He is one of those players that you were kind of waiting to see how they would unlock themselves. You mentioned that at the beginning of the year, that he was one of the guys you were really excited to see this season because you thought he was really going to have just not even an explosion of because he had such a great season last year, but just leveling up. When I talked to Jonathan Cooper about him in terms of this team has praised you guys of how quickly you guys come off the line, what makes this duo so special. He didn't even talk about the duo. He just went out to talk about Nick. And he's like, Nick is one of those guys that's seriously underrated with how fast he is, his football intelligence, his football IQ. He's one of those guys who's really kind of come up as a leader in this team. And on a bigger scale of how we've talked about how this team has locked down those key guys, Nick Bonitto is locked into this team. He's going to remain with the Broncos for years to come right now. And it's really exciting to see what they're building and how much Nick has developed. So as he goes into this week, what have you seen from Nick? And honestly, this honor that he was given.
Yeah, I think, well, one, I was almost surprised that he hadn't won it before how did he not win it for scoring a touchdown against the Colts or um,
Back to back weeks. He had a
I know.
six.
Yeah, so it kind of surprised me he hadn't won it. It's a first player of the week award for the Broncos this year, obviously well deserved. Um, I think with Nick, it's that there's the speed rush, but he also like he's gotten much better against the run. And last year, I thought there were times where against bigger tackles, like maybe they could kind of swallow him up a little bit just because he is a speed guy, more so than like a power guy. And so far this year, like going against the Eagles, tackles are huge. And you think about like the Chargers, he went against Joe Alt, who's considered one of the best tackles in the league. That guy's massive. And Bonitto, what, 1.5 sacks that week as well. So he's been kind of addressing, like if you could say, here's the questions, like he's answered those questions so far this year. George Payton said during the offseason, like nobody would have seen a 10 sack season from Nick Bonitto coming last year. And I think with him, he got on this stretch where, especially late in the year, he was borderline dominant. People started reading or learning his name nationally. Um, there was a time briefly where he was talked about as maybe a potential defensive player of the year before Surtain's name really caught hold. And so I think last year was kind of like okay, you're going to learn who Nick Bonitto is. He
Yeah.
comes into this year with everybody knowing who he is, and boom, what a hot start. 7 sacks through 5 games. It's the second most in franchise history. Only Elvis Dumervil has more. You have a great stat about Von Miller and him being the only two players since 2000 with 20 sacks in a 20-game stretch. I mean, that's consistency right there. And then the big thing is Von Miller's all-time single-season franchise sack record, which I believe is 18 and a half. And right now, Nick's on pace for way more than that, like
Yeah.
25. Obviously, a hard stretch to keep up,
Yeah.
but I think this is a guy that I think at the end of the year we're going to be talking about as like, hey, can he get 2 more sacks in this game to break the franchise record? And as long as he stays healthy, knock on wood, like he's going to be one. He's shown he could do it against good teams, which is important to the Broncos' kind of long-term hopes this year of, hey, if you get in a playoff game against the Eagles or the Chargers, obviously we'll see what happens against teams like the Chiefs down the road, that Nick Bonitto can play against these good football teams. Because some guys you just rack up stats against the not so good teams and maybe you don't play as well against the good teams. Bonitto has made plays in these big games. But then I also think the opposite is true that when he does get a chance to play in some of these games, like the Bengals game where you're ahead, you have a lead, they have to throw. Okay, maybe Bonitto can rack up a couple three-sack games and really push himself toward this franchise record. So that to me will be something to watch is him just chasing that the whole year. And it was cool listening to him talk on Thursday at Tottenham Hotspur training ground because he said growing up he didn't really have an NFL team. And so he rooted for Von Miller. And,
Mhm.
you know, there were some comps to Von Miller when he came into the league, just from a Ben perspective. And he's proven a lot of those right. And at least I think the other thing is like, for me, tying it back to this championship like goal or mindset, I always look at Super Bowl teams and I'm like, okay, well, there's like three or four potential Hall of Fame players on this team. Like, you need some really good players to win a Super Bowl. And you look at the Eagles and it's like, okay, is it Jordan Mailata? Is it Saquon Barkley? You know, I'm sure I'm missing a bunch. There's other guys on the offensive line that are really good on the defense. Like, I don't know if like Zach Bond is at that level, but there's some really good players. AJ Brown, like there's enough guys that you're like, these are Pro Bowl, All Pro, potential Pro Football Hall of Fame type guys. You go back to when the Broncos won in um, in 2015. It's like, okay, well, you have Peyton Manning, you have um,
You have your game
uh,
changers. Like you
yeah, you
have
have
like,
Von Miller, you have
yeah.
Marcus Ware. So there's three right there. And then you talk about guys like, okay, well, Demaryius Thomas, maybe he's not going to make it. He's like right on the edge there. You talk about the 90s teams, it's Elway, TD, Shannon Sharp, Zimmerman, Steve Atwater, the Hoff. Um, so, and then you think about this team and you're like, okay, well, is that here? And like Pat, yeah, duh. And then you start thinking about, okay, well, who are some younger guys that could take that step? And it's like, okay, well, if Nick Bonitto said today one of his goals is getting a gold jacket, and he'd have to like really accomplished some great things, but I think from a talent perspective, you can certainly see, hey, this is a rare player, a rare athlete. And so if the Broncos are going to do what they want to do this year, you need big time performances from, you know, and some of it's like longevity. So we'll see what happens. But like if Cortland plays at the level he's playing at and Bo Nix can play the way he did in the fourth quarter against the Eagles, and Bonitto can play that way, and J.K. Dobbins can average the yards he's averaging, like, okay, maybe from a career standpoint, you might not see like a gold jacket for all these guys, but they can play at this really high level that, okay, you're talking about guys as Pro Bowlers, all pros, you know, Hufanga playing like an all pro again. We'll see what happens when, you know, if and when Dre Greenlaw gets back in the mix. But like those are big time players. And Bonitto, I think, is maybe at the top right now as a guy who's playing better than anyone. And the last thing I'll say on him is if he can win Defensive Player of the Year, we've got a long way to go. But it would be the first time since Ray Lewis and Ed Reed won in back-to-back years that a team had two teammates back-to-back. So it's been more than 20 years. That'd be pretty remarkable, pretty cool for Surtain and Bonitto to share that.
No, for sure. And as you mentioned, we have a long way to go, but the Broncos defense is on track to accomplish many things. And with Nick, he also has 31 QB pressures this season that really complements what his other teammates can do, like Zach Allen, who has 13 QB hits this season, like Jonathan Cooper. This team has 21 sacks, which are the most through 5 games by Denver since 2015. I feel like there's something special about this season because there's so many tiebacks to the Super Bowl team, right? Whether it's they haven't done something since 2015 or they've done the most, something always ties back to the Super Bowl team. And I just think when it comes to like the football gods, I feel like that's something that fans really like to see, like just the connections that this team has, what they're doing, because it shows that they are making progress. It shows once again that what Sean Payton has done with this team to turn it around so fast and the guys buying into what they're doing. They're now seeing like the outcome of all their work. They're seeing the production and their hard work and their practices coming to life. Like this is what we worked all offseason for. This is why the guys didn't take vacation in the offseason. They're like, no, we're gonna come into the training facility because we want to win here. We want to bring something back here to Broncos country. We want to bring winning culture. We want to bring a Super Bowl. All these things we want. So now that they're having that come about, it's fun for them, I feel like. And when I spoke to Jonah Ellis, he had mentioned when I'm having fun, that's when I play my best. And I feel like that's something that's really trickling down to all the guys where it's like, we're going to go out there and have fun and dominate, but we're also going to remain focused. And you talked about it a little bit earlier in the podcast of saying that guys were kind of snickering when they asked, is this a trap game? Right. Obviously, the Jets are 0-5. Bo Nix spoke about it. And when he spoke, he mentioned, I think it's a little disrespectful when you guys say trap game. Like these are NFL teams, and he was very humble in the sense of saying like anybody could walk in on a Sunday, slip up and lose. And we have to refocus on the Jets because Justin Fields, he had, I believe, two touchdowns last week, over 200 yards passing. We know that he's a mobile quarterback. The Broncos have seen him before back last year when they played the Steelers at home, and that win went Justin Fields' way. So it's going to be really interesting to see this matchup. But how have you seen this team refocus after the short week, after the high of knocking out the Super Bowl defending champs, getting whisked away overnight on a flight? How do you see them refocusing to face the Jets?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's easy because you are in a different place and there's, you want to, maybe you're not adjusting to the time zone, or maybe you don't have kind of your same routine that you would in a normal week. I think it challenges you as a professional, and not just me podcasting, but people playing football as well, to like, okay, how do you adapt and how do you respond to something like this? And I think that's part of why Sean Payton likes it, is that it puts you in this new environment that you've got to kind of it toughens you up, I think, to some degree, to be like, okay, yeah, we're not going to practice at our normal place, and maybe the practice schedule or meeting schedule is going to look a little different, though I think they're trying to keep it as similar as they can, or maybe the stadium is not quite the same, or you haven't played there before. Like all these things are different, and you're away from home. I think those are challenges, but I also think it helps in terms of the last game, because teams, and Sean Payton brought this up, teams that played on the road before international games did not have a good record. I think they were like 10-17. And because I think that the key was like they've overlooked those games to be like, oh, what's going on in London? Like, what are we doing there? Like, what do I have to, I need my passport. I need to pack. I've got all these things.
Yeah.
And Sean Payton made sure that they did not overlook the game against the Eagles. And I think that it helps that it was against the defending champions instead of a team that maybe you felt like you could overlook. So they did a good job there. They aced that test. Now let's see if they can do the reverse. And now that they're here, not be like, oh, I want to get back to Denver, or, we've got to overlook. And the same thing, to be honest, will be true next week when the Giants come to town as they're getting back from London. Like it's kind of a stretch here where you've got to be really mentally sharp of, you're playing on Monday Night Football. Now you're playing on a short week. Now you're playing in London. Now you're playing back at home without a bye week after traveling internationally. All those things are kind of this test of toughness. And I think that that's where maybe it fits with the Broncos, and that I do think they are a tough team. I think that comes from their coach, that they're mentally tough. Sean Payton has always had teams like that. Believe Sean Payton's teams are 2-0 in London. Is that right? 3-0.
He's undefeated in his coaching career.
And so he knows how to get guys ready. I also think like good teams tend to win football games. And he says that of, hey, if you're a good team, your home record's going to be good, your road record's going to be good, your prime time going to be good, your record when it's snowing, but you can see the moon a little bit, and also it's grass. Like those, your record's going to be good in all those if you're a good football team. And I think the Broncos have the benefit of a good football team. And I think they've earned the benefit of the doubt for me as well, because if you look at, hey, what did they do last year against teams that were, struggling or below 500? They took care of those games, and it wasn't even, most of them were not close. Like I think of their wins last year, only two of them were by less than double digits, if I remember correctly. The Jets game, obviously early in the year, but then the Browns game, which was still a two possession game, I believe, but it was less than 10 points. So whether it was the Raiders, both home and away, whether it was the Falcons coming to Denver, the Panthers coming to Denver, I'm sure I'm missing some here, but like teams that you probably needed to beat, and certainly the teams that came in with losing records, the Broncos really handled. And looking at Bo Nix in particular, he's 5-1 in his career against teams with a losing record. And so to me, that speaks to a quarterback that's not overlooking anybody, that's still preparing the right way. And then you have to play mistake-free football because I think what often happens is, hey, one of these London games, a weird turnover or something like that, that's what keeps a team in this game. And like to some degree, you've seen it across the league this year, right? With like certain turnovers helping teams stay in games. And if the Broncos come out, are dialed into the game plan, which I expect they would be, um, I think they'll be okay. But you're right, it is a challenge in general to come off such an emotional win. That's where you've got to rely on Bo Nix, Cortland Sutton, Talanoa Hufanga, Alex Singleton, the
Captains, yeah.
captains, to get you right again. But then also, I think I try. This is like one of the times where I think there are moments where it really matters having Sean Payton as your head coach, and it's from a play calling standpoint, but it's also in terms of pressing the right buttons. And I feel like he's going to press the right buttons this week to have this team ready to go.
Well, this Broncos defense has a chance to really make another statement. I feel like every weekend is a chance to make a statement against an NFL team, but they're going against Justin Fields, who has shown that he is very dangerous when he's able to get out of the pocket and make a run or potentially hit his weapons. He does have a few, and we're going to get into that in a second, but I have to start with what are the challenges of facing Justin Fields?
Well, I mean, if you're the Broncos, just think back to 2 years ago when you played the Bears in Chicago and Justin Fields basically didn't have an incomplete pass in the first half. He tore up this defense, and it took a remarkable comeback in the second half for Denver to get a win. It was actually the last 14-point fourth quarter comeback for the Broncos before this past weekend against the Eagles. I think with Justin Fields, the thing is like he can make a big play at any moment. And we talked a second ago about in these games, kind of the weird games where, it's a Thursday night or it's an international game where maybe teams are just their schedules are different, their routines are different. A turnover can be the difference. Well, so too can like a huge touchdown. And you think about in that game against Miami, that was going on while the Broncos played the Bengals a couple weeks ago. The Dolphins were kind of in control, and then Justin Fields escapes and is running around in the backfield, and the next thing you know, he's in the end zone and it's a 40-something yard touchdown. Like this guy has that game-changing ability. Vance Joseph, Broncos defensive coordinator, said on Thursday that he thinks he's a better runner than Jalen Hurts is. So that's going to be kind of a key for the Broncos to hone in on. I think you saw them do a really good job against Jalen Hurts and kind of caging him, making sure he didn't get outside of the pocket. Yes, they got the sacks and what, 5 sacks, something like that, but they also I think Jalen Hurts just had a couple of scrambles and really not any major yardage on the ground. You didn't see him take off and run and escape for big yardages. So that's going to be the key again this weekend for the Broncos is making sure Justin Fields can't hurt you with his legs. But this is an accurate guy as well, and so I think it extends to keeping this team. Can you stop the run on early downs so that they're in these third and longs? I thought the Broncos did a good job against the Eagles from that standpoint of putting them in these tough situations. And even though the Eagles' protection was good, the Broncos played well enough on the back end to get stops, and we saw them play more zone defense in the second half against the Eagles. I'll be interested to see, do they go back to man? We know how good Pat is, and he's going against Garrett Wilson, who he was talking about Surtain earlier, I believe on Thursday, and was saying that a lot of corners cheat. Pat plays good defense, and that his feet are really good. And that's what helps keep him kind of upright. I mentioned the zone coverage there. Justin Fields, an 86.4 passer rating, no touchdowns against zone this season. He's got 4 touchdowns and 126.3 passer rating against man coverage this weekend. This season. So we'll see what the Broncos do there. But the other thing that stands out to me is it's not just Pat versus Garrett Wilson. And kind of scrolling through our stats here, Garrett Wilson has 33 catches, 382 yards, 4 touchdowns, which are all in the top 10 in the NFL. Surtain has faced him, I believe, in 3 games in his career. He's only allowed three catches on 7 targets for 34 yards, a pick, and 2 passes defense. So Pat's he did a good job last year. I think back to that game against the Jets in New York. That was the Broncos' second win of the year. part of the storyline was, can Surtain hold Garrett Wilson in check? And he did that. So that was a big deal. But also, like, how does Riley Moss play? And Vance Joseph said he's playing well, but also, like, he needs to know there's times you don't have to play up and play press man and defend the fade. Like, you can make it easier on yourself for certain reps. So he's a player that I think could keep getting better. And man, just the way that Bonitto has played, we haven't even talked recently about guys like Zach Allen and DJ Jones,
Yeah.
and can the Broncos, if they get Malcolm Roach back, is he a guy that on rundowns can really help this team? So it's team defense, it's executing, it's putting together the proper plan. And Vance Joseph talked about not just blitzing for no reason, but having a plan. So Justin Fields is a dynamic quarterback. They've got a couple of weapons, with Garrett Wilson being the number one guy. But again, I think this defense is starting to show that, like, when they play their brand of football, there's not many teams better across the league. I mean, you just handled the Super Bowl champs, I thought. Outside of a couple of explosive plays that the Eagles made, they didn't really sustain a lot of drives. And so if you can do the same thing this weekend, I feel good about it. And the other thing is that if the Broncos offense can chime in and do their part, it really helps. I saw a stat that I think Justin Fields, where is it? Justin Fields, I think, is like 0 of 20 um, when the opposing team scores more than 20 points. 0 of 26 in his career when his team allows more than 20 points. So, and then 14-8 when his team allows 20 points or fewer. So if you're the Broncos offense, can you get to that 20-point number, let your defense then kind of get after him and find a way to get the win? So that kind of stands out to me from a defensive standpoint.
Yeah, containing Fields is going to be key because he's averaged 50.2 rush yards per game in his career, third most by a quarterback in NFL history. Only Lamar Jackson and Jaden Daniels have more. Just to put perspective in what he's capable. I mean, he was a first round draft pick, so I think it's important to not overlook that. They're also going to have to contain Breece Hall, who leads the Jets with 351 rushing yards, which is seventh in the NFL. He has a 501 scrimmage yard, which is eighth this season, despite not scoring a touchdown yet. So they're going to have their hands full in terms of containing the run, containing the quarterback. But I feel like it's almost good that you just went against the Eagles because you had a similar challenge there too. So I think that's one of the things that's really going to help this defense be able to attack the Jets offense. Now, when it comes to the Broncos offense and attacking the Jets defense, we have to talk about this run game. And it's something that I think is a very pleasant sight to see. I think J.K. Dobbins has come in and really helped transform this team. I know the guys talk very highly of him in terms of just his energy, his attitude, but then his production on the field. When I talked to Jonathan Cooper before they left to Philly, he mentioned he's like, I'm not going to say I'm surprised because I know the kind of running back he is, I know the kind of man he is. I almost expected him to do this because he is that type of running back. And he's like, and I'm just happy that he is our running back. And I feel like a lot of Broncos country feels the same way, if not all.
Yeah, JK has been, and maybe it hasn't surprised Jonathan Cooper. It surprised me a little bit just because, he's a guy that, and each week we say it, and knock on wood, he stays healthy. Um, but that he had struggled with injuries, and the Chargers obviously decided they were going to go a different direction. And so, whenever anyone's a free agent, you always just kind of wonder, like, what's their impact going to be. And then the Broncos draft RJ Harvey. I know that happened before they signed Dobbins, but there were a lot of reasons where I wasn't sure what the impact was going to be. And he's been really good. The burst is impressive. He's this emotional leader as well. Sean Payton's talked really highly of him. He can pass protect. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can make plays. He's a playmaker. And I think that the Broncos offense needed playmakers. And I know there's been a lot of talk about Evan Ingram and his contributions. Well, listen, he made a play when it mattered against the Eagles, and J.K. Dobbins the same way. He's been a playmaker this year. I think you want to be able to ride the running game in this game and continue to develop that. And as we record this, Ben Powers has not practiced the last 2 days. There's reports that he's going to be out for a while. Sean Payton kind of alluded to that, saying, "Hey, it's next man up, and it's tough when you lose a starter." We don't know who that's going to be, but how does that impact the run game when you've got a new person in there at left guard? That kind of all fits together, and you hope that they're able to keep that consistency. But if JK is able to provide an extra burst and turn a 2-yard run into a 4 or 5-yard run, with a new offensive lineman in there, that could be important as well. But yeah, I think again, maybe we mentioned it before the Eagles game, but when they run well, it sets up the play action, and then it gives Bo a chance to throw the ball down the field. And I think you saw several plays where, and maybe it was more against Cincinnati, but the play action sets this up, and the motion in the backfield, and none of that works as well if you don't have the run game. And so that's all really important. I thought Bo played one of the best quarters of his career, if not the best quarter of his career against the Eagles. You'd like to see him keep that going. This is a defense that has Sauce Gardner, who, especially a couple of years ago, was mentioned right in that conversation with Pat. Had a tough year a year ago, but still a good football player. You've got some guys on that defensive front that are certainly a challenge to handle. So you got to play clean football, and I do think you're right that it starts with running the football. And again, like I mentioned, Justin Fields led teams have struggled when they haven't when the other team has reached that 20-point mark. So the Broncos can find a way to get there. Doesn't guarantee anything, but you feel better about it. So that's kind of what stands out to me offensively is like you said, the run game matters. They've got to find a way to get that going because it kind of feels like it fuels everything, right?
Definitely. And I think the extending of the drives and controlling time of possession, draining the clock when the game is at that point where you need to do that, I think is very key. I mean, just running down some of JK's numbers, he leads Denver with 402 rushing yards, which is fifth in the NFL. He has four rushing touchdowns, tied for fourth this season. Most rush yards through 5 games by a Denver running back since 2007. And I mean, Dobbins has 72.6 rushing yards per game. And I think we saw the importance of his productivity on Monday Night Football, right? Because he was just kind of chipping away. It was like 6 yards here, 12 yards here, 15 yards here. And when you're able to get a defense tired with the consistency of your running back just bursting through them, that does help your quarterback in terms of third down. And then you can have Nix throw it to Cortland Sutton on third and short to extend drives and things like that. So a good run game and a good defense, Sean Payton has mentioned it before, is a recipe for success in this league. And when you look at the duo of RJ Harvey and Dobbins, they're one of six running back duos with 150 plus rush yards each this season. Harvey having 150 rushing yards, one receiving touchdown so far this year. So we haven't really even seen the unlocking of him, but we have seen glimpses of what General Manager George Payton has talked about, what head coach Sean Payton has talked about in terms of RJ Harvey's vision. When you look at this team and just the way that this defense, I mean, excuse me, this offense has been able to execute using the rookies, using the veteran guys, I feel like they've found a way to mix them all together to get the most out of this offense.
Yeah, and again, it's a week to week thing. Like last week, they went to Cortland a bunch, and I do think that has to be one of the staples is keeping Cortland involved. But there were some plays for Evan Engram. Some
Got his
times where
first Broncos touchdown, first
yeah,
touchdown as a Bronco.
it was a big play. And I think even his leaping grab earlier in the drive was even maybe a
Yeah.
better catch. But you've got to find ways to keep these guys involved. You've seen Pat Bryant continue to take more snaps, get a little more involved. So I think, again, this offense is kind of I don't want to say work in progress, but just like it's going to get better as the year goes on, as you find out more and more about what they're comfortable with. And Bo Nix gets, again, he's played what 22 games, 23 games if you count the playoff game. He's still very early in his career and is doing some impressive things. So I think that chemistry will continue to build. And it'll put the Broncos in a good spot. I did want to say, as we talk about Bo and like what he's been able to do, the one other thing with Fields is that he really gets the ball out quick, it seems like, or at least he did it a year ago. Admittedly, haven't seen as much of the Jets this year, but gets the ball out quick. Last year against the Broncos, he didn't throw for a lot of yards, 117, but he only took 2 sacks. Ran 3 times, excuse me, 8 times for 27 yards. So they kind of held him in there. But he's one of, I believe, 2 quarterbacks this year who's started a bunch of games and hasn't thrown an interception. So he's going to be a challenge. And I don't ever want to say like it's quarterback versus quarterback, but I do think if Bo goes out and plays a better game than Justin Fields, it'll put you in a good spot. So I kind of view like there's some similarities here of, hey, you've got these top receivers versus top corners, and then okay, you've got a pair of quarterbacks, and like who can outduel the other maybe. So one of the things I'll be watching.
one of the things that I'm going to be watching too, you mentioned just the different matchups that this game brings. And Surtain and Sauce Gardner are two of four active cornerbacks with multiple first team all pro selections. So you mentioned the fact that Sauce Gardner is, he came into the league very strong. I believe he won rookie of the year his first year, or defensive rookie of the year. But I think it's one of those matchups where I'm excited to see how he plays against Cortland. Will he be lined up against Cortland? Because Cortland Sutton has had such a great season so far. And Bo Nix talked about him in his press conference on Wednesday, where he says, like, it seems like the tougher the game gets, the better Cortland gets. And it's like he doesn't shy away from these moments. And we've seen him just be so consistent when we need such a crucial third down or a crucial fourth down. There's Cortland. And it's almost like Bo Nix and Cortland have this connection where he knows if I'm in that tight of a situation or that high prep situation, I know I can go to Cortland because I feel like his productivity this season has been impressive. And he's had a season high 8 receptions versus the Eagles. And I believe he's in a career high in terms of receiving yards per game this season. But you've covered Cortland for a long time. I mean, I'm curious to see, like, how have you seen him develop over the course of this year to what you're seeing now as this team is really making a push to become a postseason playoff team?
Yeah, I think it's just that he's got the consistency, the time on task with Bo, and there's like an increased comfort. And certainly after Cortland tore his ACL, there was maybe like a year or even two where he was still working his way back, and you could tell he wasn't quite the same. But like that to me is all gone. He's the same guy now that he was before. I mean, has been for several years now. I think that's why you see him, in that Pro Bowl conversation. And as one of the better jump ball red zone receivers, third down receivers in the entire league is like he's well past all of that. And then it's just okay, well, he's played with so many quarterbacks over his career, and whether it's as a rookie in 2018 or 2019 when you play with three different quarterbacks over the course of that year. 2020, that was a little bit of a carousel as well. So I guess that was the year that he would have suffered the injury, I believe that year. So pulling that up to make sure that I don't tell anybody something wrong. That 2020 is the year that he did suffer that injury. So missed that year, but then like 2023, he was spectacular. I thought he only had 772 yards, but he had 10 touchdowns. He had that game-winning catch against the Vikings on Sunday Night Football, makes a deep catch against the Chargers. But then
Fun
now,
fact, I was at that Vikings game.
yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that with the Sunday night team, right?
That's right. I was in the corner trying very, very hard not to let my fandom take over my professionalism. Even
It's
though
true a little bit.
I wore a white beanie that had a Broncos logo, but it was white, so you couldn't really tell. I had Broncos earrings on, but I had my hair down. And then it was
Mm.
cold, so I had a Broncos long sleeve, but I wore it under a jacket. So like I
There's
contained it, but
there's no cheering in the press box, but on the sideline, it's fine as long as nobody knows.
just blend in with the coaches. It's fine.
Exactly. And then last year, like his second 1,000-yard season, 8 touchdowns, was just the guy for Bo. I think both emotionally, like supporting him through some good times, some tough times, and making plays. And then, like you said, off to a great start. Obviously, on pace to have another 1,000-yard season, kind of right there in terms of another 10 touchdown season. So I also like. I think it was Scott Van Pelt, and he's terrific. But like, he had a question of like, oh, what's it like to like finally like be on the upswing? And like, I don't want us to disrespect Cortland. He's been really good for a long time. I think it's just that the team is better now, so you're seeing it, and so some of this is not going like he's not making great catches for nothing, or like they're not just drifting away into the ether. Like people are paying more attention. So yeah, when he plays Quinyon Mitchell on a nationally televised essentially game that draws the largest CBS audience in what 10 years or whatever it was,
Yeah.
people are going to notice and be like, okay, Cortland Sutton, he's a dude, but it doesn't mean he wasn't a dude before. It's just maybe he's gotten the right opportunity now. So yeah, Cortland's an important piece of this team, and hope to see him battle Sauce. If you remember in 2023, the Broncos played the Jets at home, and they threw up an end of game pass to Cortland Sutton that I think would have tied the game. And Cortland got, or maybe even won the game, and Cortland got like held sauce was all over him, and
There's
they
sauce everywhere.
they didn't call it, and I wonder if that'll be. I didn't ask him about it because it didn't occur to me just now, but I wonder if like that plays on his mind if I got to get him back for that. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think you might need to maybe if even if it's not on camera, just ask him on the
Yeah,
side. Be
that's true. Yeah, maybe
really quick. I just want
to
to
the
ask you
side.
something. Well, before we get out of here, I do want to get your big picture thoughts of this game. I mean, they're playing at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for the first time. All of Sean Payton's wins internationally in London have been at Wembley. Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, from what I've seen, is gorgeous. I mean, if it's any closer to what the practice facility is, I know the guys are just going to enjoy it. But just big picture of just like this team playing internationally and what this win could mean for this team as they come home to a nice little homestand that they're going to have here over the next few weeks.
Yeah, I'll get to sleep in my own bed. That'll be nice.
I haven't seen you in like a month.
I know. Like where am I? I've just been in this little room.
You're in the future. How is it over there?
That's true. And now it's 6 p.m. I mean, people might have listened to this before that time happens, makes you think.
Yeah, you're in the future. Tell us. Look at
I'll
your
tell
crystal
you, I'll
ball. What are
text
the
you and
big
tell you what
pictures?
happens in Thursday night football so you can seem smart in the office. Be like, hey, guess what happened in
I'm gonna
the
be loud like this is gonna be a short slant to the end zone.
yeah, you'll know. It'll be like Back to the Future too.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I went to Tottenham last night. Yeah, that's the right day. Nick Bonitto's high school team played there, and Bonitto. I don't know if anyone saw. A couple people did tweets, but he was there to talk to his team. We'll have that's a little tease. More to come on that front, but
Denver
I got
Broncos.
to see the stadium and really beautiful. It's different than Wembley, where the Broncos played in 2022. That's kind of the historic, the old. So many people have played concerts there. I can't remember who said it, but it's almost like the Rose Bowl of stadiums. And this is state of the art. It's an outdoor stadium, but it kind of has these like arching canopies almost that it kind of looks to me like what they're going to do with the Bills stadium that keeps out the weather a little bit. But then late in the game, I was like, oh, they've got the AC cranked up because you forget you're outside, and then you look up and you're like, oh, there's the sky. So, a cool stadium, state of the art press box is really close to the field, so you get a great vantage point there. And listen, I just think that this is such a cool thing anytime we get a chance to do it. And not just for Broncos fans to get to travel over here, but also fans of the NFL or Broncos fans who live here and get to see their team, or in Europe who are coming from other places to get here I think for the example it sets. The NFL Academy is the team that the Broncos, or excuse me, geez, not the Broncos, that Nick
The
Bonitto's high
Broncos
school.
players supported. That's what you're gonna say.
Yeah, well, yeah. So NFL Academy is the team that Nick Bonitto's high school was playing, and like those kids are getting that chance. And NFL Academy exists because of the interest in American football that started when teams started playing over here. And so there's also there's a Broncos Europe group that our friend Michael McQuaid. We used to go do a podcast with him on Broncos Europe, and now he's calling games like international games on TV of when they play in Ireland. So like there's all sorts of stuff that's been really cool to see develop. If you haven't checked it out, I know you have, but if fans haven't checked it out, I got to talk to Damani Leach, our president, about, he used to work for NFL International and not just work there. He led NFL
Yeah.
International. And, so he's got a unique perspective of growing the game and then his time with the Broncos as well. And we've heard Roger Goodell talk about maybe goals of someday playing 16 international games in a season. And it sounds like Damani's all for kind of the team continuing to
Yeah.
expand Broncos country and Broncos country not having any borders. And it's a fun trip. And from a team perspective, it's a work trip, right? Like you got to go get the win. But I think for everybody else, like the fans who are here, there's a fan rally on Saturday. If you're listening to this in London, on maybe it's Friday by now, who knows? Like come check out the fan rally. It's downtown. I'm not gonna try to pronounce where it is, um, yeah, you can find that on our social channels or denverbroncos.com. But it's a cool thing that there's these fan rallies, and then there's going to be a march to the I think it's called From Pub to Pitch. They're going to all meet up and then walk to the stadium together. Our friend Steve Atwater is here doing community work, so it's wide ranging, and it all happens because of the game, but there is a lot more than the game. So a cool week. Hopefully we cap it off with a win and then come back and then it's alumni weekend, so
The fun doesn't stop there.
the fun continues, the work continues, but yeah, I'm excited to see this stadium and watch this team on Sunday. And you will have a little espresso maybe on Sunday morning. It's gonna be a little earlier for you as we cover this one.
I'm gonna need. I might just go try to find a pub just to kind of feel on the ambiance.
Oh, that could be. Yeah. Are there if anybody has pub recommendations in Denver? Um, I wonder if some of these bars, like, do you think some of these bars would, well, our friend Zach Stevens, maybe he'll open his bar early for you on Sunday.
I'm saying like Denver is a great football town, so I guarantee there's gonna be plenty of places open at 7 in the morning, if not earlier. But you mentioned the international aspect of this game. The NFL is hosting or is going to fit at the end of the season have hosted 7 international games, with 3 of those being in London. I mean, the fact that this game is growing so much is is really beautiful to see. They've played in so many different parts of the world. They're going to play in Spain. They're potentially going to play in Australia in 2026. I mean, there's just so many places that they're trying to get to. So as we close out this episode of Altitude Advantage, if you could go cover
Oh,
a Broncos game anywhere in the world, where would it be? And Broncos country, if you're listening to this, as you're listening to this, leave in the comments if you could go see the Broncos play anywhere in the world, where would it be? You cannot say at home, because that's a cop-out answer. I know, because
I
a
was
couple of the
considering
guys
it.
said that. We asked them on media and they were like, no, nothing's better than. I was like, yes, Broncos country will forgive you. Home is not an option. We know that Denver's great. It's a great football town. Not gonna take that away, but anywhere in the world, anywhere
Does
else.
there, does there have to be a stadium there, or can you like put a stadium
No,
there?
we're gonna build a stadium just for you to go to this game and have it played there.
Okay, well, I don't need to do that. There's a stadium there already. I'm pretty basic. I think if you could like you'd have to do some renovations maybe. If you could retrofit the Coliseum in Rome to host an NFL game,
Oh,
that would be pretty sick, I think.
that's
So
actually a really good answer.
I'll go with that.
I approve that answer. That would be, imagine just come out like, are you not entertained?
Yeah,
That halftime show with gladiators. I'm
that's
already,
true.
I need to have a
Yeah.
conversation with NFL
What's
International. I'm like, Damani, let me call some of your friends up.
what's the actor's name who's in Gladiator?
Russell Crowe.
No, no, no. Well, yeah, but the new one, the one that everybody,
Oh, it was like Pedro Pascal was in it. Denzel Washington
that's
was
not
in
who I'm
it. I
thinking of
don't know
either.
like the main, I forgot the main guy's name.
Yeah, me too. I'm not a pop culture. Uh, what's the opposite of a girly boy? I don't know.
A boy?
Well, I was trying to think of the opposite of a girly because you're like, I'm a defense girly. I was trying to think of the opposite. I'm not a pop culture dude. Is that a
Let's go with that. I like dude more than boy.
perfect?
All right, well, that will do.
What about you?
What about me? See, like I've thought of so many places, but see, like I don't like, honestly, like I want somewhere tropical. I want somewhere by the beach. Like one of the guys that are during media day, I won't say who said it, but they were like Turks and Caicos. And
Oh,
I was like, I might call out sick from the game.
oh yeah,
But like, yeah,
yeah.
I'm
Just
like,
on the beach.
I would want some like somewhere tropical. Like I'm thinking like the Bora Boras or like the Maldives. Like just
Mm,
think of like, you know how they have like those hotel rooms are like in the middle of the water, like
yeah,
just like have
with the
this.
bridges, kind of.
Yeah, like imagine like it's like think of like set this
Imagine
like
that.
Atlantis. You know what I mean? But like
Oh, underwater.
so I'm just saying. They have hotel rooms that you can sleep like underwater. But I'm saying like I think like over like
Okay.
tropical. That's why I used to love when the Pro Bowl was in Hawaii. Because I thought that setting was just so nice and like the view, the weather, like just I don't know.
I'd be signing up to cover the Pro Bowl every year if it was still in Hawaii. I got Orlando. No offense,
Yeah.
no offense to Orlando, but
Mhm.
not the same.
It's not Hawaii. But
Um,
yeah, that'd be mine. I'd be
about the
like a very
moon. They
electric
should do it on the moon.
powerful
That'd be cool.
on the moon. Evan Ingram picked space when
Oh, that'd be
they
cool.
asked him. Because
Well, they
I
have
will
to
say,
figure
in
out.
his defense, I gave him no rules. I was like, and he was like, what about outside the world? And I was like, sure. And he was like, outer space. I'm like, I don't know how field goals will play in that scenario,
I
but
think fumbles would be an issue in general for everybody. Like if you put the ball down, it's going to float away. I don't know how you would throw a pass.
yeah.
I'll have to work on that. Maybe
Yeah,
maybe
we'll have to work
dome.
on the Space Odyssey version of an NFL game. But for now, while we get to work on that, make sure you guys leave in the comments where you think you would have your ideal Broncos game anywhere in the world aside from here at home in Denver. But this was another episode of Altitude Advantage. We appreciate you guys listening. Make sure you guys comment, follow for the latest news from London on denverbroncos.com. As always, I am your host and team reporter, Elisa Hernandez. Across the pond, across the screen, our historian, our Cortland Sutton investigator who's going to ask the hard
Ooh.
questions, Aric DiLalla. So again, make sure you guys stay tuned for everything, for more in-depth coverage of this matchup. I actually break it down on Broncos HQ with our Hall of Famer Steve Atwater, so make sure you guys check that out on YouTube. And we will wake up early as kickoff is at 7:30 a.m. Mountain Time. What time will it be in London for the fans that are listening there?
2:30.
2:30. Well, there you have it, Broncos country. Again, for all the latest coverage from London, make sure you guys stay tuned in on denverbroncos.com, and we will see you next time.